Well, hello there, folks. Zark is here. So, with Journey Together, they added a new archetype, and archetype is basically the trainer's Pokemon in Pokemon TCG. And today we are going to be looking at End's card from Journeys Together. And we're going to be building a deck around End Zoroark since he's going to be the main attacker. So all of End's Pokemon represent his team from Black and White. Sadly, we didn't get some of the good one. It's mostly the Gen 5 mons. So those Pokemon are and Zoroark, and Reshiram, and Darmanitan, and Klinklang, and Sigilyph, and Joltik, and Porloin. And along with the pre-evolution for and Zoroark, and Darmanitan, and Klinklang. And there's also other cards such as Ant's Castle and Ant's BP Up that only works for Ant's Trainers Pokemon. And with the next expansion for Black Bolt, we are gaining Ant Plot, so that's a supporter. So let's look at the main attacker for Ant's deck, and it's gonna be Zoroark EX. Zoroark EX is a pretty good card. It has a built-in draw engine called Trade, and most people use Zoroark basically as a draw engine. So yeah, and with Night Joker, you can use attack from Ant's Pokemon from your bench, and it only costs 2 energy to actually use. And there's gonna be 2 main Pokemon that you're gonna be using Night Joker with. It's gonna be Ant's Reshiram and Ant's Darmanitan. With Ant Reshiram, you get 2 powerful attack. You're gonna be main damager is gonna be Furious Flame, does 170 damage, and then Powerful Rage does 20 damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So when your Ant Zoroark is pretty low, you can counter attack it, and the maximum they can do is 140. So you're gonna be down to 270 damage. So that's quite a lot of damage, but at the same time it's kind of risky. And with Darmanitan, you get 2 attacks. Backdraft, it does 30 damage for each energy from your opponent's discard file. So basically, this attack is really good against a deck that required to discard, such as Raging Bolt and Golden Go. Flaming Body Cannon does 90 damage on the active and does 90 damage from the bench, and discard all the energy from this Pokemon. And Flaming Body is pretty good knocking out multiple enemies, but since it does damage instead of damage counter, certain Pokemon can be immune for it, such as Terra or any bench protection. And you can always use Power Glass to also get yourself energy back by the end of the turn after you use Flame Body Cannon, and you just have to attach energy during your next turn. And the rest of Ant's Pokemon is okay, but not the best, I'm gonna say. And that is Ant Sigilyph, and Ant Klinklang, and Ant Joltik, and then Ant's Porloin. So with Ant Sigilyph, you can use the victorious symbol to actually get your last prize without actually defeating them. So it's pretty good. But at the same time, you can use Ant Zoroark to actually cover that, so you don't really have to have Ant Sigilyph. Then let's talk about Klinklang here. It's a 2-stage Pokemon, and it takes way too long for you to set up. It also takes up a lot of deck space, and if you're not gonna be running all 3 stages, you're gonna be using a rare candy. It also take even more space, and if you're Badugluck, you're basically screwed. And then after that, it does 0 damage by the way if you miss all 3 coins, and if you do hit all 3 coins, it does like 360. So that knock out quite a lot of mons there, but at the same time, I don't like mechanic that has a flip a coin missing and does 0 damage for that turn. It's not that fun. Then after that, let's talk about Ant Joltik here. It's a pretty good mon, especially if you're facing against a too heavy deck. But at the same time, that's kind of rare because you're rarely gonna be facing them. So it's kind of flippy, I'm gonna say. If Pokemon has a side deck board, you can basically side in a Joltik, but it doesn't really exist in Pokemon. It's not like Yu-Gi-Oh, where you can have a side deck, you can use a counter. You must have to have it in your deck. So yeah, that's why I kind of don't like Ant Joltik. It's a very situational card. So let's talk about Ant's Porloin here. It does quite a lot of annoying for your opponent. So it reveals their hand so you can see every card they have. Then after that, you choose one of them, put it bottom of their deck. So you can disrupt their key cards, for example, and they're kind of annoyed. At the same time, there's a lot of draw power in the game already. So a lot of search power, and yeah, Ant's Porloin is kind of a bit iffy here, so it's kind of risky to use. So it also take a bench slot. That's why say these threes, actually not these three, this four isn't really that useful. You're better off just using the Reshiram and Darmanitan. That's basically it, to be honest. So here's the deck list, and we're gonna be running 4 Zoroark into 4 Zoroark there because it's a good engine to draw and it's also your main damager. Then after that, you're gonna be running 3 Badu just to disrupt your opponents, so you can take your time to actually build a bunch of Zoroark into Darmanitan and Reshiram. Speaking of Reshiram, we're gonna be running 2 Reshiram here since having them prized is kind of annoying, and having them knocked out because some people will actually figure out your damager is actually your Reshiram and Darmanitan. And speaking of that, you can actually use Monkey Dory since we're using Dark Energy anyway, so you can move damage around, and it's quite useful to have Monkey Dory. And then after that, we're gonna be running 1/1 Darmanitan and Darmaka because End Shaman exists and some people are still using Terra, so Darmanitan's kind of not that useful, and your damager is mostly gonna be Reshiram's attack anyway. Then after that, we have Pheasant DP for that extra draw power. Then after that, if we're in the last price card and we can't really destroy their their active, we can have an End Sigilyph and just win the game from that basically. So we're gonna be using 2 Sarino here, so it's very useful to get yourself a multiple copy of Zoroark and Pheasant DP. Mostly you're gonna be using it for Zoroark since you want to have multiple copies of Zoroark since you're gonna be switching it out, since you can have free energy because of Ant's Castle. So you're gonna be running like 2 bosses order, pretty self-explanatory. Use it to disrupt your opponent, or you can put in on like low HP Pokemon, so you can use Flame Cannon, so you can do multiple price pool. Same time, make sure you don't actually target a Terra with your Flame Cannon if they're in the bench, because it will do 0 damage because they count as as a damage instead of a damage counter. So you're gonna be running 2 Iono here just to disrupt your opponent, and then after that you're gonna have 2 Black Blade Training just for that extra damage. Then after that you're gonna be using Professor Research, so you can dump your hand so you can get a new fresh hand basically, or if you're the last card, you can just refresh it. Then after that you use Zoroark to get more cards, so they're pretty nutty cards. Then after that you're gonna be using 1 Professor Toro here, so you can bounce back some Pokemon to be in your hand again, such as if you actually have a Pheasant DP or low HP Reshiram and stuff like that, or you put too many Zoroark. So with the item here, we're gonna be running 4 Buddy Puffin, so you can have multiple Zoroark and Badu and stuff like that in the field. Quite useful basically. And after that we have NPP up, so any of your discard Dark Energy, you can attach it to your Zoroark. Sometimes you can also, if you have a different energy, you can attach it to like Reshiram or any other Ants Pokemon, but usually it only works with basic, so special energy doesn't really count. So yeah, so we're gonna be running 3 Nest Ball here. It's quite self-explanatory here because certain mons are more than 70 HP, and that's basically what we're gonna be using Nest Ball for. So we're gonna be running 3 Ultra Ball here, and the reason for that is sometimes we didn't get a Rhino right away, so sometimes we just have an Ultra Ball, so we can evolve our Zoroark to Zoroark. And then after that, sometimes we need a Monkey Dory and a Reshiram into Darmanitan because they don't really count as an EX, so might as well have them. Not only that, Ultra Ball help us dump a bunch of Dark Energy into our discard piles, so we can use Ents PP up right away. So if you have 2 Ents PP up, you can start attacking, so it's quite actually good to have Ultra Balls. So we're gonna be running 2 Night Searcher here, so we can put back Pokemon or energy back to our hand from the discard file. So it's quite useful, especially if they figured out that our main damager is actually Reshiram. Since some people don't know how to read because TCG players, right? So quite useful instead of having run 1. I don't like running Super Rod. I would rather have Night Stretcher with Zoroark, for example. Then we're gonna be running 2 Earth and Vessel, so we can get a bunch of Dark Energy in our hands, and then after that, we can discard it with the Ultra Ball. And yeah, basically it's a quite useful item. It's our energy research. So there's a lot of aspect here. You can use Secret Box, or you can use Unfair Stamp. For me, I like using Secret Box more, since we can get ourselves an item into a stadium, into supporters, but you don't really run any more Pokemon tools, so that's kind of not worth it, to be honest. But yeah, it's the only way for us to get Ant's Castle right away, since Ant's Castle is quite actually useful, since if you have multiple Zoroark in play, you can switch to undamaged Zoroark to go damage in there. Then after that, if you knock them out, you can switch back to your damaged ones. You can use a powerful rage. So yeah, that's the reason why I like Secret Box. At first I didn't try energy switch, then after that I actually did, and it's quite actually useful, and if you just have one at least. And the reason for that is because you can have multiple Zoroark, and if one of the Zoroark only have one energy but the other one has two, you can switch it into the other one. And especially if your active one has a bunch of damage and you have Ant's Castle in play, just switch out your damage one into the healthy one. Then if you required more energy, use the energy switch. And yeah, speaking about Ant's Castle, we're gonna be running 3 of them, and the reason for that is because having 2, sometimes you just bench all of them. And not only that, we're facing a bunch of Team Rocket, and I think sometimes I face a Golden Go and stuff like that. There's a lot more deck that required a stadium, and Ant's Castle is basically very useful for a Zoroark deck. So yeah, that's the reason why I'm running 3. So our energy count is gonna be 7 dark energy and 2 reversal. The reversal can be switched out for different things, such as Team Rocket Watchtower, so you can remove all the abilities. So yeah, that's quite useful if you're facing against a bunch of ability mana Pokemon. Or you can use a Jam Tower, so no tools for both of you. So if you're facing against Lakot Cynthia's Garchomp, and then they have I think tools that increase the HP, it's basically gone. So yeah, or you can actually equip a rigid band, so you can get yourself a less damage, so 30 less. Or you can use Defiant Band for your 30 extra damage. Or you can use a Power Glass, so you can get your energy back and after you use a Flaming Cannon. And the reason why we're running 7, no less than that, but you can actually go higher than that. And yeah, it's because of price pool. Sometimes you get screwed over and price pool 3 of them. And yeah, if you're running 6 only, that's 3 dark energy, and you have to dig into your deck quite a lot. So you actually have to have Earthen Vessel, and then after that, if you don't get Earthen Vessel, you have to use Trade In, and then that's gonna take a while. So that's the reason why I like to run 7 at least, especially when we're running Monkey Dory. And the reason for that is because to have your damage right around, and plus you can heal your Zoroark, and then with the Flaming Cannon from Encermanitan, you can start rolling quite a lot. So sometimes they have like 120 HP. You put a Monkey Dory counter on it, and there you go. You can basically snipe the bench. So yeah, so here's the deck list for Zoroark here, and yeah, we're not really running the Ankling Clang and Joltek and Spurloin. It's because they give consistency, and you want to have consistency on the deck, especially if you're trying to win quite more. And not having them is basically a good idea. But yeah, we are using Ensiglyph though. Some people go for Blood Moon. Either way is up to you, but yeah, I don't like really running those mon. But if you insist, and this deck list is basically with those 3, and yeah, you take up a lot of deck space here. You don't have Monkey Dory, you don't have Badoo, so make sure if you can actually start rolling at your second turn. If you get unlucky with draws, you're basically screwed. But yeah, that's the reason why I don't like running them, because it take up a lot of space already. I can't really get rid of one of the space for Anspolon here, because it take up way too much space. You need Pheasant Deputy for the extra draw power, just in case you're behind on price pool. But yeah, that's the reason why I don't like running them, because look at this deck list. It's already filled up with with those 8, because we're running 2 rare candies and a Jolter. But we could probably get rid of Reversal for Spurloin. But then again, this list, it's very, very not good, to be honest. So you're better off using the previous list. That list is way stronger, and you're focused on 2 of the best one for team basically. Okay, we're gonna be calling a day here, and yeah, the gameplay video will be in the description, showing off the full power of and Zoroark here. And yeah, we're not gonna be using the this build that we have in the screen. We're gonna be using the previous one because the previous one is way better and much more consistent, and you got draw power to dig into your deck if you have bad hand. And yeah, basically that deck is really strong. But this deck that I have for Clank Clank, it's not really that good. You can't really make it better here because you need to have consistency, and if you have multiple Pokemon trying to evolve at once and stuff like that, it's way too clunky and you're gonna get a bunch of dead hands most of the time. So you're better off just using the 2 damager, that is Enrashram and Enderman 10. So yeah, I'll see you everyone later, and hopefully you watch the video. It's gonna be down in the description, and yeah.